This is the 18 Strong Podcast with Jeff Pellizzaro, episode number 41.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzaro.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Jeff Pellizzaro, host of the 18 Strong Podcast, golf fitness professional and physical therapist, and I want to welcome you to the show this week, where we have a great guest, Liam Mucklow from the Golf Lab up in Toronto, Canada. And this week we're talking about something that is completely outside of my wheelhouse and not necessarily fitness related, like many of our topics here on the 18 Strong Podcast, but I've started to realize over, the past 40 episodes, I can't believe this is the 41st episode, and I've known this for a long time, obviously, that golf has a lot of different pieces, and the fitness portion can be a very big piece of the puzzle, but there's so many other things that factor in, and part of the 18 Strong podcast and website is tying all this stuff together to make you the best golfer that you can possibly be and let you finish as strong on the 18th hole as you started on the first hole. And a big piece that comes into play is not just your body, but your equipment and what you're using when you're out on the course. Is the piece of equipment that you're using right for you? What are the things that you need to be looking for when you're buying new equipment? There's always something new coming out. How do you know what's right for you? What size, what style, what fit is right for you? And Liam has the Golf Lab up in Toronto, which is a 26,000 square foot facility, and they do pretty much everything under the sun there. But these guys are experts in fitting clubs. In fact, so much that they have a mobile golf lab that travels around with the PGA of Canada, and it's pretty cool looking. It's a big touring van where they have everything they need to fit guys on the road, both the everyday average country club golfer to the professional that needs the highest and smallest tweaks in their game and in their equipment. So this was a topic that I wanted to get into first because I don't know much about it. Like I said, this is not in my spectrum of teaching. This isn't anything that we touch on in the gym by any means, and I personally have never been fit for clubs. I know that I should be fit for clubs, and I intend to do so with the next set that I end up purchasing, whenever that may be, because I am starting to notice more consistency in my game. I just got my newest release of the handicap index, and it's down to a 12, which I think is pretty respectable considering about 2 years ago I couldn't break 100, and I play about 5, maybe 10 times a year at most. So I know that this is a big piece, but I don't know much about it, and I know that there's a lot of you out there that also want to learn a little bit more about what should you expect when you go to get fit for clubs, or should you get fit for clubs? So Liam's going to answer some of these questions for us. And what I love about this interview is Liam doesn't necessarily give the answers that I expected him to give, which is awesome, because I love learning what the guys at the highest level are doing and what they recommend for guys like me and people like you. So Liam also touches on, who should get fitted for clubs. The high handicapper, low handicapper, does it matter? And he goes into detail there. And then when you are going to get fit, what should you know when you're going in? What are some of the terms that you need to know? What are some of the different things that you should come in knowing regarding what you want to change in your swing, your ball flight, that type of stuff? And then he goes in and defines some of the different terms, some of the different numbers that they use, so you can have a better understanding of what these guys look at when they're evaluating and assessing. And then he kind of touches base on everything that they do at the lab and what their assessments and screens look like. And then finally, we touch on what may be the biggest factor in seeing improvement in your game, and I'm going to let Liam explain that at the very end of the episode. One last little piece of news that we have: the YouTube channel for 18 Strong is up and running, so if you haven't seen any of the videos, go over to YouTube and just type in 18 Strong, the number 18 Strong, all one word, and you should pop up our videos. We've got a couple of them up. We're going to be releasing a new video every Monday and Friday at the least, and I promise that we're going to have a lot of great content consistently coming out, and hopefully we'll actually increase the frequency of that as we start to get a few more videos in there. Not just myself, it's going to be some other great professionals around the globe, really. Some coming from Denmark, Florida, all the way up in Vancouver. So we've got some great stuff coming for you guys. So go check that out. And if you're on the email list for 18 Strong, you will get an email with every new video that comes out. So if you're not on the email list, just go to 18strong.com, sign up to get your free gift, 5 yards in less than 5 minutes, and that will put you on the email list, and you will be updated for all the new podcast episodes, all the new videos that come out. So go ahead and do that. All right, enough of me. Let's get to Liam Mucklow. All right, everybody, welcome to the 18 Strong podcast, and thanks for joining us today. I'm very excited to have Liam Mucklow from the Golf Lab up in Toronto, Canada, here with us today. Liam, thanks for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. A little background for you guys on Liam. He is the founder of the Golf Lab, which is a 26,000 square foot facility up in Toronto. And you guys have pretty much everything under the sun, from golf instruction, medical staff, Trackman, putting, all that stuff up there.
Yeah, it's a toy box for big kids, but we've got long winters up here, so we need something to do, right?
Nice. Yeah, and if you're okay with it, I'll put the video that you guys have on your homepage on the show notes for this, so people can kind of see and get that little tour that you guys have, which I think is fantastic. Yeah,
for sure. It's always a challenge for us to explain to people what we do, so we always found it's best just to try and show them.
Yeah, just your facility is incredible, so I can't wait for the listeners to check it out. Also, Liam, in 2014, you had a huge year. PGA of Ontario Instructor of the Year and PGA of Canada Teacher of the Year. Pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it's always nice to have a couple dominoes go your way.
Nice.
So it's, obviously you never set out to do those kind of things, but, for us and what we do at the lab, for everyone involved there, it kind of felt like, I guess, validation of the concepts of 6 years of hard work to get there. So,
sure.
Yeah, it's always nice.
Yeah, well, you guys are keeping busy up there. I know you do a lot of teaching for TPI. You're one of the senior instructors for Aimpoint up in Canada, and you also do some instruction and teaching with Trackman, as well as looks like you guys have a new mobile golf lab up and running.
Yeah. The tour vans, it's out. Actually, we partnered with PGA Tour Canada 3 years ago, and so so we've got a tour van that goes around to the events, and then in the off weeks, it sets up shop at private clubs and allows us to deliver that PGA Tour experience at places all over Ontario.
Yeah, it looks pretty slick. And then on top of all that, prior to your golf lab and founding that, you spent 10 years on the World Long Drive Tour.
Well, yeah, I guess it was more, I suppose, 97 to 2003, I was out there hitting long balls from, right from grade 12 in high school through till the end of university. And in 2003, I headed overseas and actually played on a few different tours across Asia for about 5 years.
Awesome.
And then, headed back to Toronto to, I guess, start what's now the Golf Lab.
Very cool. All right, so I got a chance to see you at the World Golf Fitness Summit in Carlsbad this past year. Mm-hmm. And I went there, because I knew you were going to be talking about power and, what you guys do at the lab and some of the club fitting stuff. And so recently I was, I wanted to get you on the show since I saw you at the World Golf Fitness Summit. But I started talking to some of my clients, some of my friends that are golfers, and was kind of asking them about, different topics. And club fitting was one of the things that came up, and I knew that that you were coming on the show, and we kind of talked back and forth a little bit about ideas for the show. And I started getting a lot of questions from guys on, club fitting and how important is it, right. Who should get fit for clubs. And this is kind of cool because this is all stuff that I've never been fit for clubs. I play with a set of clubs that I was given by a friend of mine who's a instructor and a local pro, and I know that I should go get fit for clubs. But give the audience an idea who really should get fit for clubs, and why, if it's your opinion, should an amateur go get fit? Yeah,
that's a good question. It's I find as opposed to being able to, kind of give you an answer like a this or a that. It's more a series of questions that we have to go through with the golfer. Who should get fitted? Well, I guess one simple way to look at the question would be to say anybody that has a moderately consistent club path. Mm-hmm. That would be, to me, one of the precursors to warrant fitting. If you're such a new player that on one swing you're coming way from the inside out and on the next swing you're coming way outside in, just get something standard and, get anything you can repeat, whatever it is. Even if you're a 26 handicap, a 30 handicap, and you don't necessarily like the way you swing, but it's let's say unfortunately repeatable.
Right.
Even if you're not working on your golf swing, you can get a huge benefit out of club fitting, because with modern technology, all of the permutations and combinations of head, shaft, and grip allow an experienced club fitter to really, make some serious compensations to help the ball fly the way you want it to fly,
right,
for however you deliver the club.
Okay. And so, I know that there's different components to it. There's, like you said, the head, the shaft, the grip, and there's different things that come into play there. And I'm glad you touched on it, because when I was discussing with a friend of mine, he said, well, Jeff, I don't know if I should get fit. If I'm working on my swing and I'm going to be changing my swing, do I get fit for that? Or let me backtrack just a little bit. When you go and get a standard set of clubs, do you need to know your lie angle and length and all that stuff, or is even that not as important?
Well, I guess the first thing is it's, so when you really understand the way the design of the club works together, to me, it makes me think like club fitting is kind of an all or nothing. Because, for example, to fit for lie doesn't make sense unless we correlate that with appropriate length. Right. Because there's a difference between 2 degrees upright standard length and 2 degrees upright half inch over and 2 degrees upright 1 inch over. Okay. So that all changes the way that the club works. Our kind of, I guess, our standard, we'll say, policy at the lab, if you're enrolled in one of our training programs, is, we say you have to earn your right to be fit for clubs. So if you're working on either a posture change or a grip change, we're not going to fit you until your golf coach is happy with the progress and you're there where you want to be. Okay. What's also interesting, though, is, for certain individuals, the way they need to move and the way their equipment allows them to move can cause the equipment to be the biggest barrier in a swing change. Mm-hmm. So I think, again, at the end of the day, it's hard to give anyone a clear-cut answer, but it's got more to do with understanding the overall goal of the golfer. Sure. Do they want to get better with what they've got right now? Do they want to get something that will help them achieve specific goals long term with their swing, their technical proficiency? Or is it we need to make certain changes so we can fit you for the clubs that will work for you for years to come? Right. So I'd say those are probably the key questions for golfers out there to ask themselves. Perfect. And so what would you say is the first point of action for them? Would it be to go meet with a pro where they can have somebody look at their swing and kind of assess them, or do a physical assessment, or just go? Well, or just tell them to go first. The first thing I tell them to do is probably just to sit at home and break out a pad of paper and a pen, and take one side of the page and write down what are you willing to do to get better, and then take the other side of the page and say what aren't you willing to do to get better. And then you sit there and you take a look at, for one guy it might be, I'm willing to spend money, I'm willing to hit balls on the range, or whatever, I'm willing to take lessons or whatever that is, but I'm not willing to go to the gym, or right. For someone it might be the exact opposite, because their lifestyle doesn't allow them to put hours in on the driving range. So they may, be, I'm willing to change the workout structure I have with my personal trainer. I'm willing to find time to play 9 holes every week.
Right.
So I think, I think it's something that, the golfer, whoever's out there, there's a viewer out there who's trying to figure out, if they've got, let's say they've got money to invest into their golf game and they want to get the most out of it. They need to assess their strengths and weaknesses, and then they need to really have an honest look about what they're willing to do. Mm-hmm. Golf, one of the great things about golf is you get out of it what you put into it.
Absolutely. Much like most things in life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's say say that you've got somebody, they're at the lab, and you know that they're ready to be fit for clubs. What are some of let's break down just some of the basics of club fitting. What are you looking for in, the head of a club? Kind of explain, some of the different things with the shaft. I know I've heard about different kick points in the shaft and maybe give us an idea of what that is and what that does to ball flight, and then anything else that you can think of that might be.
Sure. Well, again, I'll see if I can provide maybe 2 perspectives at the same time. On let's say on my end, on the fitter's perspective, I'm always trying to find out. I'll always try and deal with the subjective. I'll even say to the client, okay, I need you to tell me all the things I can't figure out. Do you like the look of it? Do you like the feel of it? These things are important. You're going to play with these clubs for a long time. I'm sitting there with my Trackman. I can deal with the numbers. Like, I know if it's working, if it's not working. I know if the lie angle is right. So that, even like you mentioned, kick point. I would recommend to any golfer out there that's going for a club fitting to not tell the fitter what they need. Oh yeah, I hit it too high, so I need a high kick shaft to put it down lower. I need this. I need whatever it is. If you're going to do that, then you know what? Just go hit eBay. If you know what you need,
right.
Then if you think you know what you need,
right?
So always try and tell your club fitter what you want your new clubs to do that the old clubs don't. That's always a question I'll open a fitting with. So if you come and see me for a driver fitting, Jeff, what's the single biggest thing your new driver could do for you that your old one doesn't? And everyone, first off, they're going to give 2 answers. Well, I want it to go farther and straighter. No. You can pick one. What do you want?
Right.
And then from there, it's really about the fitter understanding how the components work together. So it's, when we look at the best fit, the best golf club, the best built golf clubs in the world, the stuff the guys on the PGA Tour are playing with, what the fitter and builder are able to do with their relationship is make all of the components come together perfectly. I'll steal a line that I'm sure you heard also at the World Golf Fitness Summit from Mike Boyle. I'd say building a great golf club is like a recipe. It's not a menu. Mm-hmm. Right? You can't say, well, I want a mid-size grip and I want a mid-kick shaft and I want it 45.5 inches. It may not work like that. So, the ability to adjust head weight, lie angle, shaft length, shaft flex, kick point, grip weight, grip size, puts the recipe together to get what performs best for the golfer. Mm-hmm. So if you're a golfer out there, depending on the access you have to a club builder, if you go for a fitter and a fitting at a standard shop and you get, just your normal OEM delivered clubs and you order an inch over, I think it's pretty important you understand that, extending the club 1 inch is going to raise the swing weight on average 5 points, which is also going to raise the launch angle, which is also going to change the spin rate. So, when you go see an experienced fitter, they understand how all these different pieces fit together. So it's, I guess, it's kind of like maybe kind of like a musical instrument where it's about having everything work together and ultimately serve a purpose.
Sure. So it's basically a tuning process where one thing affects another, which affects another, which affects another. Much like, I mean, that's the human body, you know.
Yeah.
When we're in the gym, when we're looking at, you know, well, what's the ankle doing, and that's going to affect what the knee's doing, that's going to affect what the hip's doing, and those pieces then also come into play when you're fitting with clubs and everything too. Just if you could give us a little glimpse of what it looks like when somebody comes to the lab, because I know you've got all these different pieces. Where do they start as far as, you know, do you do physical assessment? Do you look at their swing first? What does it look like when they step in your doors?
The first thing we do is put everyone through a process called baseline testing. Mm-hmm. So it starts with our initial student interview. You know, we just sit down again and understand, I guess, understand what the golfer really wants. You know, and I find most golfers walk in and, you know, it's probably the same, and they think they know what they want. But, you know, after a few questions, they realize they're not exactly sure if it's exactly what they want or how to get there. So, you know, we spend a fair bit of time trying to understand where people are coming from, where they really want to be. You know, and a lot of that even has to do with what does the game mean to them. You know, I think for most of us, we're not dealing with tour pros on a day-to-day basis. We're dealing with people that play golf because it's fun.
Right.
You know, so what do you enjoy? You know, do you enjoy hitting it 10 yards farther? Do you enjoy hitting a few more fairways? Do you enjoy learning to finally cure that slice? You know, what's going to make you happy? And then from there, they go upstairs and they work with one of our TPI certified physical professionals. We've got a level 3 medical, a level 3 fitness. So Dr. Nick Bartachenko and Mike Weeb, we'll put them through our physical assessment testing process. Depending on the client, that'll vary slightly. Obviously, people come in at all different levels.
Sure.
While that's going on, their clubs go through a static test, where we take a look at the lie, loft, length, swing weight, frequency of each club. When they come back down, they go through some baseline testing on Trackman, pitching wedges, 6-irons, drivers, putting stroke analysis on Sandputt Lab, hop on the body track to get our weight shift profile, and then get into the AMM system so we can see what their 3D movement is.
Wow.
Yeah, at the end of that couple hours, basically, then we kind of sit down with them and we sort of know what's what. And from there we can help them with a roadmap. So everything we do is basically, test, prescribe, retest.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So part of the objective of this interview today is getting some definitions around different things that you guys do in the club fitting area. So I know you guys use Trackman a lot, and we always hear about these different numbers: launch angle, ball speed, spin rate. Can you just give us some important things for the listeners to understand when they're hearing these numbers, and not necessarily what's the ideal number for this or that, but maybe just a definition of what each thing is so they can understand?
Yeah, sure. So that's a good question. I like that. So I would say, speaking to the average golfer who's thinking about going out there for a club fitting, some things that are information that's important to arm yourself with, to know that you've got the right fitter doing the right job. Mm-hmm. The first thing I'll talk about is smash factor. Okay, so smash factor is ball speed divided by club speed, and that's a measure of efficiency of impact. All right, now, most of the time we hear about how with our driver the smash factor should be like 1.48, 1.5, mm-hmm. And it should be. Where I see a lot of misinformation coming out is in iron fittings, and a misconception from the customer, and we'll say maybe unethical sales tactic from certain fitters is that higher smash factor is better with irons. The loft of the iron is a big part of what breeds an optimum smash factor. The more loft that's on the club, the more the glancing blow to the ball, so the slower the ball goes for any given club speed. Mm-hmm. So if you get a 6-iron that's putting up a 1.5 smash factor, there's something less than ideal about that delivery.
Right.
So while it may look romantic because the ball's going fast and the total distance on the launch monitor is farther than what you've hit, that could be because the club is so de-lofted from some current set standard and it's fast off the face, or there's no spin, so there's no lift. The ball lands at 30 degrees And yeah, it shows you a 6-iron that's going 200 yards. What they're not showing you is that it's carrying 165.
Right.
Right? Not functional.
Right.
So I'd say just that understanding of smash factor, and it's about optimum, not maximum.
Okay. And is there a chart that shows you kind of an idea of what each iron should be, or?
I mean, it's tricky. Trackman has PGA and LPGA to our optimum values, but the reality, again, I'll say your optimum launch conditions are pieces of a puzzle. Just like the club or human performance. So, let's say for a 6-iron, different club head speeds have different optimum smash factor because it's going to be correlated to our launch angle.
Right.
So again, it's more about, for the golfer, understand what you need the golf ball to do. Okay, so if you're a golfer out there and you're thinking about going for a club fitting, and the most important thing that could happen for your irons to perform better would be for them to stop faster. Mm-hmm. The key performance indicator is going to be landing angle.
Okay.
So going armed with that information to know that. Because again, what most people don't know is that whether it's your driver or your pitching wedge, the golf ball lands with approximately the same amount of spin. A launch monitor tells us the spin at launch.
Right.
Over the course of the flight path of the golf ball, there's spin decay. So, a high spin shot causes lift and drag. The ball climbs up. As the spin decays, the ball stalls and it falls straight down. A low spin shot doesn't have as much lift, so it's not able to stall and fall steeply. Mm-hmm. So if you understand that the most important thing for performance, let's say, is for your driver to roll, go in understanding that you need a land angle below 40.
Okay.
And let the fitter do his job instead of going in there and telling him that you need a 14-degree launch angle with 22 spin, because that may not be achievable.
Right.
But if your golf ball rolls, it's better for you.
Sure.
So, in addition to knowing some of the nomenclature, it's very important for golfers to understand what do they need their golf ball to do. And if you know what you need your ball to do, any club fitter with any launch monitor can provide you with the answers.
Okay. And then let me flip it on the other side. I hear and see a lot about testing the balls. How important is it to know what kind of ball you're using? And again, we're talking to the audience here is from, I know that some are competitive golfers, some are scratch golfers, but we've got golfers that are up into the mid, low to mid 20 handicaps as well.
Well, so here's my first question on ball fitting. How much are you willing to spend?
Yeah. Me? Me personally, I can't feel the difference. So, to me, it doesn't, I don't know that it matters that much.
Well, you know what? Honestly, that's the first question I'll ask in a ball fitting. And if the person says $6, we're going Pro V1 or Pro V1X.
Right.
And, outside of that, so what I can tell you is that the net difference off a driver from your premium golf ball to your we'll say low spin, high compression golf ball from the same manufacturer, that's usually about a third of the price. Difference in distance off the driver is going to be a couple percent tops. Actually, earlier, what was this? Maybe 1 month ago, I had some free time on my hands. I went out to my home course down the street, and I took Trackman and I started hitting pitch shots. It was about a 15-yard carry just onto the green, and charted the Trackman numbers, but then also the real world results with land and roll. And the Pro V1 had about 25% more spin on the pitch shots than the Pinnacle range ball, which actually netted out to the ball stopping about 35% faster.
Okay.
So, I think it's important for people to understand if you're going to pay $6 for a golf ball instead of $3, you're not getting distance off the tee, you're getting stopping power at the green.
Okay. That's good to know.
Another, a great way I heard it put was from one of the top club fitters in the world, Derek Murray from For Golf in Ireland. And he basically said, play the hardest ball you can stand to putt with.
Nice.
I thought that was a really cool way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's one other thing I want to ask you before we get into a couple of the standard questions that I ask everybody at the end.
Okay.
But when I was going through some of your website and just looking at some of your bios and things like that on TPI, I kept seeing the term quantifiable improvement. And I know you talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the audience the idea behind seeing quantifiable improvement in your game?
Well, that those two words really sum up the culture that is the golf lab. The golf lab really, it's not. It's far less about a facility, and it's far more about a team of people that have put together a methodology that allow us to quantify improvement. It's like I said earlier, everything for us is about test, prescribe, retest. And I think that's a very normal thing coming from the fitness industry. Think about it as simple as you go see a personal trainer. What do? The most basic one is at least going to, let's say, put a tape measure around your waist. Okay, let's work out for a week and let's do it again. Hey, you're getting better. But for decades, if not centuries in golf instruction, our industry has shied away from that. Golf is not an easy game to get better at. I think it's natural for a lot of golf professionals to steer clear of this simplified approach of test, prescribe, retest, because someone might not be getting better. But I think if you look at it from a different perspective, where instead of taking that as a threat, you take it as an opportunity where you can re-prescribe and then retest and, alter course as you go. You're going to get there if you follow standard principles of learning. So that's something that every one of our team members in every single department really just, lives and breathes every single day.
Well, I think speaking to that same point, when you have somebody, from the client's perspective, they get to see those quantifiable results. And I think it gives them that much motivation to continue with the program or, try something different or, just the accountability that comes into play makes such a huge difference.
Well, even just to get started with the program, just to, for us, when we give a golfer a key performance indicator, like, hey, you know what, we just spent 3 hours and we went through all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, here's what matters. And it's this, and here's how you practice this, and here's how you measure this yourself. They're incredibly motivated to go and do it.
So let me ask you this. Okay, we've got a bunch of people listening, and they don't have a 26,000 square foot facility to get to. How can, if you have a couple quick, simple key tips that you could give the average golfer, what could they do to quantify their improvement on their own?
Just test yourself. Test yourself once a week. Make it a pressure situation and develop a test that will let you know you're on the right track. So if you want to become a better ball striker, you know what, just once a week at the end of whatever practice session, hit 10 4-irons, because it's the hardest iron in your bag to hit. And how many of them do you hit perfectly? And if this week it's 1 and then you practice and next week it's 2, you're getting better. It can be that simple.
Yeah.
If you want to get a better putting stroke, go find yourself a 10-foot straight-in uphill putt, and once a week or once a month, hit 10 putts and see how many you can make. And you know what? If you only make 3 today, you're going to be pretty motivated to train for the next month so you can make 5 next month. And if you do, you're getting better. And if you don't, then you know that your practice routine isn't working, so you got to try something else. So the simplest answer is just test yourself, be objective.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll interject there is when you're doing this, for the listeners out there, write this stuff down. It's very easy for us to forget, oh, what did I do last week? Oh, I think I sank 4 of the 10 putts. But just bring put a pad of paper in your bag, and same thing goes for when you're going to the gym. You should have I'm a big believer that you should have a written program every time you go to the gym, and you should be documenting your weights and, trying to get a little bit better every single week. And we talk about that week in and week out on the podcast here. But same thing goes for, tracking your wedges, tracking your ball striking with your 4-iron, your putting, Just that little simple tip of writing down what you did this week and then referencing it and seeing what you did the next week makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you got to write it down. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
All right, before we close up, I got a few questions that I tend to ask everybody. First one, possibly the most important, Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore?
Caddyshack.
Excellent. All right, what has you excited at the Golf Lab for this up-and-coming year?
I would say the most exciting thing is our green grass location. We just opened a new spot at Diamondback here in Toronto, and it's the first time we've kind of had everything on site at a golf course 365.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So the name of the website, the name of the podcast is 18 Strong. I'd like to get an idea of from the guest. When you hear the term 18 Strong, what does that conjure up to you?
Being as strong on the 18th hole as you were on the first.
Nice. All right. Before we head out, any last pieces of advice for the audience, and then let them know where they can find you and kind of follow the Golf Lab?
Last pieces of advice. Well, I think the last thing we really talked about there, test yourself. If you want to be better, test yourself. It works in every single educational institution around the world. It'll work with your golf game too. You don't have to follow the Golf Lab. Like us on Facebook, thegolflab.ca. If you want to stay in touch with my personal stuff, mucklowgolf.com. Same thing, Mucklow Golf on Facebook. And looking forward to making sure everyone out there sucks less in 2015.
Yeah, I love that. I've seen all the guys, the T-shirts and everything.
Yeah.
The motto of "suck less." It's fantastic. Well, Liam, I just want to thank you for coming on tonight. I know that we've been trying to schedule this for a little bit, and finally got you on. And I know the listeners have gotten a lot of great info. They learned a lot more about what the clubs are doing and just a couple things that they need to know when going to get fit or, just when going out and practicing. So I'll have all of your stuff up in the show notes page so they'll be able to find, the Golf Lab, Mucklow Golf, all that stuff, and they can keep in touch with you. So once again, thanks for coming on, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me, and best of luck to everyone out there.
Okay, hopefully Liam answered a few of your questions about club fitting. And if you have been fit for clubs, hopefully this gives you some insight as to whether the fitting was right for you and they did the necessary things to make sure that your clubs, your equipment is fit for you. If you haven't been fit for clubs yet, hopefully this gave you an idea of, what to expect when you're going in, what should you be looking for, and what are the things that you really want to get out of your game, and what are you willing to give up, and what are you willing to do in order to make your game better. And that's going to help your instructor and your club fitter really help dial in your equipment to suit your needs. So go ahead and check out Liam and the guys up at the Golf Lab. It's thegolflab.ca, or you can check out Liam's personal website at mucklowgolf.com. That's MUCKLOW golf.com, where he's got his blog there. He's got some great information, different articles on things going on with the lab. And as I mentioned, Liam does a lot of work with Trackman, Aimpoint, TPI, all these different bodies that are helping to grow the game and really improve the performance of golfers. So check out all the information he has on that stuff as well. Liam, I want to thank you personally for coming on the show. It was a great time, great chatting with you. And for all of you listeners out there, don't forget to check out our channel on YouTube. Just go look for 18 Strong, where we got a bunch of videos coming out. Lots of great content for you. And jump on the email list over at 18strong.com. Get your free ebook, 5 yards in less than 5 minutes. And like I said, that's going to put you on the email list where you will get all the new videos, new podcast episodes. Because I know sometimes if you aren't part of iTunes, aren't subscribed to iTunes, sometimes you end up missing some of those episodes. So we can't have that where you're missing 18 Strong episodes. So get on the email list. I will send you some info on everything we have coming out. I really appreciate you guys being here. We'll catch up with you next week. Train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.